Hello children, how are you? Children, today in this session we are going to learn chapter 14, 7th class social studies chapter 14, Mughal Empire. The remaining part of this lesson we are going to learn in this session, children, and I am calling your friend Afrin here. You also open your 7th class social studies textbook page number 130, and I am calling your friend Afrin here. She will read the lesson for your sake, children. Listen her lesson reading and develop your lesson reading skills. So Afrin, come here and read Zabt and Zamindars. Zabat and Zamindars.
Zabat and Zamindars. The main source of income available to the peasantry, Akbar's revenue minister Todar Mal carried out a careful survey of a period of 10 years. Each province was divided into revenue circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. This revenue system was known as Zabt. It was administration could survey the land possible in provinces such as Gujarat and Bengal. In most places, peasants paid taxes through the rural elite, the headman or the local chieftain. The Mughals used one term, zamindars, to describe all the intermediaries, whether they were local headmen or villagers or powerful chieftains. The zamindars were not appointed by the Mughal emperors but existed on hereditary basis that his sons succeeded when the fathers died. They too had contingents of the armed followers. They received a share of the revenue collected by the jagirdars from the areas and also some dues for the farmers and others. They often acted as representatives of the local people in dealing with the Mughal officials. In some areas, the zamindars exercised a great deal of power. The exploitation by Mughal administrations could drive them to rebellion. Sometimes zamindars and peasants allied in rebelling against the Mughal authority. These zamindar peasant revolts challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire. From the end of the 17th century, a closer look at Akbar's policies. The bold features of administration were laid down by Akbar and were elaborately discussed by his friend. While Akbar was at Fatehpur Sikri near Agra during the 1570s, he initiated Muslim scholars, Hindu scholars, Jesus priests who were Roman Catholics and Zoroastrians. He was interested in the religion and social customs of different people Akbar wanted to bring together. Gave Akbar the idea of Sulh-e-Kul or universal peace. This idea of tolerance did religions in the kingdom. Instead, justice, peace that was universally forming a vision of governance around this idea of Sulh-e-Kul. The emperor would work for the welfare of all subjects irrespective principles of governance was followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan as well. Aurangzeb projected himself as favoring only Sunni Muslims. People of other religions felt against by this policy of Aurangzeb. The Mughal empires in 17th century and thereafter, the administrative, military, economic and commercial prosperity fabled land of wealth, but the same visitors that existed in contrast to the greatest. Sardar Sarvai Pappanna. Sarvai Pappanna, who belongs to the Warangal district fought of Aurangzeb, he supported the lives of many, many poor people who were backward and downtrodden. Pappanna occupied the Telangana area from Mughal rule between considered the capital city in Warangal district. Having seen the operations and atrocities committed by Mughals during that time, he raised a small army and trained them in guerrilla attacks. Pappanna controlled the forts at Bhuvangiri, Kolampaku of Nalgonda, Tatikonda, Cheriyala of Warangal, Huzurabad, husband of Karimnagar. He constructed his first fort in Sarvaipeta with the aim of expanding his rule. He constructed forts in Chekdam constructed during the rule of Pappanna in King to develop the region under his control. Pappanna mostly raised the funds for war and army, guerrilla attacks on Subedar, zamindars and landlords. Upon hearing the news of Pappanna's popularity, Aurangzeb advised Rustam Dil Khan to suppress Pappanna. Rustam Dil Khan sent Kazim Khan, slayed by Pappanna. Rustam Dil Khan himself entered the war, and it went on for almost and close associate Sarvanna in this war. After the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, the Deccan Subedar Kambaksh Khan started losing the control of Deccan. Having seen the weak administration of Kambaksh Khan, Pappanna attacked Warangal on April 1st. In 1708, however, in a long battle at Tatikonda, later at Kalishapur, he escaped. He was caught and beheaded in 1712. The Mughal emperors and their Mansabdars spent a great deal of their income on salaries and goods. The scale of revenue collection left very little of money for investment in the hands of the primary producer, the peasant and artisans. The poorest amongst them had barely enough resources for extensions and could hardly invest in tools and supplies to increase productivity. The wealthy peasantry and artisanal groups, the merchants and bankers profited in this period. The enormous wealth and resources commanded by the Mughal nobility made them an extremely powerful group of the authority of the Mughal emperors. Slowly declined, his subordinates emerged as powerful centers of people in the regions. They constituted new dynasties and held command of provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. Although they continued to recognize the Mughal emperor in Delhi as their master by the 18th century, the provinces of the empire had consolidated their independent political identities. After the weakening of Mughal asserted their independence, Khan, Kulich Khan, also known as Nizamul Mulk, of the Hyderabad state, 1724, Nizamul Mulk ruled for 24 hours, ruled from 1724 to 1948. Among them, 7 kings got the title Nizam from the Mughals: Nazar Jung, Muzaffar Jung and Sabad Jung. were not received the title Nizam. The Nizams constantly fought the Marathas and the rulers of Mysore. The carved the independent state of Hyderabad. Due to these reasons, they became independent on the British and lost their independent status. They undertook the colonial modernization under the influence of the British officials. The British loved the Hyderabad culture during late 19th century. Hyderabad embarked on development. Salajan was the Prime Minister of the Nizams between 1853 and 1883, who imbibed colonial development schemes. You will read more about him in the next lesson. The sixth Nizam, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan's period, marked with a number of reforms. The Asafia Library, Victoria Memorial, Orphanage Mahbubia Girls School were established during the Musi floods in 1908. He personally supervised the relief operations, offered prayers to the God, and provided shelter to the victims.
Thank you, April. Very good. Keep it up. So, children, how often did you listen, children? You also develop your lesson reading skill, children. So, okay. Now, Zabt and Zamindars will see in the Mughal Emperor period. Okay. The main source of income available to Mughal rulers was taxes on the produce of the peasantry. Akbar's revenue minister Todarmal carried out a careful survey of crop yields, prices, and areas cultivated for a period of 10 years, 1570 to 1580 CE. On the basis of this data, tax was fixed in cash for each crop. Each province was divided into revenue circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. This revenue system was known as Zabt. So, in the Mughal Emperor, in the Mughal Mughal Emperor period, Todarmal is a person who is collecting the tax and giving the Mughal emperors. He is keeping the all accounts of the tax and survey of crop yields and how much tax should be collected. This all work is seen Todarmal in the Mughal Emperor period. In 1570-1580 CE, he was the person who is collecting tax and giving to the Mughal emperors. On the basis of this data, tax was fixed in cash. On the basis of this data, whatever the data produced by the Todarmal, on basis of this data, tax was fixed in cash for each crop. For each crop, the tax was fixed in cash. Each province was divided into revenue circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. This revenue system was known as Zabt. What is the Zabt question will be asked for you, children. The tax is fixed in fixed in cash for each crop, and each province was divided into revenue circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. This revenue system was known as Zabt. Okay, na? Like this answer you have tried. It was prevalent in those areas where Mughal administrators could survey the land and keep very careful accounts. This was not possible in provinces such as Gujarat and Bengal. In most places, peasants paid taxes through the rural elite, that is the headman or the local chieftain. The Mughals used on term zamindars to describe all the intermediaries, whether they were local headmen of villages or powerful chieftains. The zamindars were not appointed by the Mughal emperors but existed on hereditary basis. That is, sons succeeded when the fathers died. They too had contingents of armed of followers. They received a share of the revenue collected by the Jagirdars from the area and also some dues from the farmers and others. They often acted as a representatives of the local people in dealing with the Mughal officials. So, children, uh, in the villages, the headmen or chieftains are collecting the tax and giving to the jamindars, and jamindars are collecting the taxes as a revenue basis on the crops and giving to the Mughal emperors. So the Mughal emperors are not appointing the jamindars. Jamindars are coming into the force on hereditary base. If father is jamindar and he is died, he's after his death, the son is become a jamindar and he is collecting the tax and giving to the Mughal emperor's children. So this is the administrative process into the Mughal emperor time. And these zamindars are acting as a public mediators with the Mughal officials. In some areas, the zamindars exercised a great deal of power. The exploitation by Mughal administrators could drive them to rebellion. Sometimes zamindars and peasants allied in rebelling against the Mughal authority. These zamindar peasant revolt challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire from the end of the 7th century. Sometimes the Jamindars are becoming very powerful. They are exploiting the farmers, peasants, and that's why the cause of revolt, cause of conflict are occurring there. And Mughal, these revolts challenged the stability of the Mughal Empire. This revolt only the challenge the stability of the Mughal Empire. That's why, due to this revolt only, the Mughal Empire is destroyed and children in the 17th century. Okay, so next is a closer look at Akbar's policies. How are the Akbar's policies? A closer look once we will give on to the Akbar's policies. He is a great king of Mughal Empire. The broad feature of administration were laid down by Akbar and were elaborated discussed by his friend and member of his court, Abul Fazl, in his book, the Akbarnama. While Akbar was at Fatehpur Sikri near Agra during the 1570s, he initiated important discussion on religion with the Muslim scholars, Hindu scholars, uh, Jesuit priests who were Roman Catholics and Zoroastrians. He was interested in the religion and social customs of different people. Akbar wanted to bring together people of diverse faiths. This eventually gave Akbar the idea of Sulhi-Kul or universal peace. This idea of tolerance did not discriminate among people of different religions in his kingdom. Instead of it focused on a system of ethics, honesty, justice, peace that was universally applicable. Abul Fazl helped Akbar in forming a vision of governance around this idea of Sulhi, Sulahi Kul. The emperor would work for the welfare of all subjects, irrespective of their religion or social status. This principle of governance was followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan as well. Aurangzeb divided from this policy and tried to project himself as favoring only Sunni Muslims. People of other religion felt uh, anguished by this policy of Aurangzeb. So, from the Mughal emperor, Akbar is one of the great king who want to bring the universal peace among the religions, and he start a rule idea of Sulahi Kul, and under this Sulahi Kul, he is given the universally peace for all the religion during his period. and Abul Fazl is help to bring this idea in the success. Jahangir and Shahjahan also follow this Akbar's visions, but Aurangzeb, one of the person who is not follow this vision, universal peace, and he started his only vision of Sunni Muslims. So many are not accepted Aurangzeb this administrative policy. Sulahi Kul. What is the Sulahi Kul? Jahangir Akbar's son described his father's policy of Sulahi Kul in the following words. As in the wide expanse of the divine compassion, there is room for all classes and the followers of all creeds. So it is his imperial dominance which on all sides were limited. Only by the sea there was room for the professors of opposite religions and for benefits good and bad, and the road to interference was a closed. Sunnis and Shias met in one mosque and Christians and Jews in one church to pray. He consistently followed the principle of universal peace, Sulahi Kul. So this is the Sulahi school. Through this Sulahi school idea, he brought the universal peace among the religions. Sunni and Shia how to pray in the same mosque, and Christians and the Jews should pray in the same church. So this is the idea of the Akbars in Sulahi Kul. Now textbook page number 132. The Mughal Empire in the 17th century and thereafter. So here the administrative and military efficiency of the Mughal Empire led to economic and commercial prosperity. International travelers described it as the fabled land of wealth. But the same visitors were also appalled at the state of poverty that existed in contrast to the greatest wealth. The inequalities were glaring. Documents from the 20th year of Shah Jahan's regime inform us that the highest ranking Mansabdars were only 445 in number out of a total of 8,000. This small number, a mere 5.6% of the total number of Mansabdar, received 61.5% of the total estimated revenue of the empire as salaries for themselves and their troopers. And here children given Sardar Sarvai Papanna. So what is the Sardar Sarvai Papanna? Who is he and what is he did, we'll see. Sarvai Papanna, who belongs to the Warangal district, fought against the Mughal rule in Telangana. He lived during the period of Aurangzeb. He supported the lives of many poor people who were backward and downtrodden. Papanna occupied the Telangana area from Mughal rule between 1687 to 1724 CE and built a fort in Khilashapur, which was also considered the capital city in Warangal district. Having seen the oppression and atrocities committed by Mughals during that time, he raised a small army and trained them in guerrilla attacks. Papanna controlled the fort as at Bhuvanagiri, Kolanupakku of Nalgonda, Tadikonda, Cheriyala of Warangal, Huzurabad, Hasnabad of Karimnagar. He constructed his first fort in Sarvayapeta with the aim of expanding his rule. He constructed forts in Tadikonda, Vemulakonda and Shapuram. Existing check dam constructed during the rule of Papanna in the Tadikonda shows that he was a development-oriented king to develop the region under his control. Papanna mostly raised the funds for war and army by guerrilla attacks on Subedar, Jamindars, and landlords. Upon hearing the news of Papanna's popularity, Aurangzeb advised Rustum Dil Khan to suppress Papanna. Rustum Dil Khan then sent Qasim Khan first to Papanna and then to conquer Shahapura fort. Having Qasim Khan defeated and slayed by Papanna, Rustum Dil Khan himself entered the war and it went on for almost 3 months. Rustum Dil Khan finally fled from the war. Rustum Dil Khan finally fled from the war and Papanna lost his friend and close associate Sarvanna in this war. After the death of Aurangzeb in 1707 CE, the then Deccan Subedar Kambaksh Khan started losing the control of Deccan. Having seen the weak administration of Kambaksh Khan, Papanna attacked Warangal for on April in 1708 CE. However, in a long battle at Tadikonda, later at Kilashapur, he escaped. He was caught and beheaded in 712 CE. So this is the story of Papanna. Papanna is a ruler when the Aurangzeb is ruling. In the Aurangzeb ruling period, Papanna is ruling on the Warangal and he is constructed his kingdom Khilashapur, Tadikonda, Husnabad in Karimnagar, Huzurabad, Warangal. He constructed many forts and what is his policy of attack onto the other armies? Guerrilla attack. He follow the guerrilla attacks and he capturing the land of the other kings. Mainly he is attacking on the Jamindar Subedars and he is looting the wealth and that is he is using for the administrative of his kingdom. So Aurangzeb sent his Subedar, name is Rustum Dil Khan, and tell him to control this Papanna. So Rustum Dil Khan sent his friend Qasim Khan to attack on the Papanna. But in this war, this Qasim Khan lost his life. Then Rustum Dil Khan himself entered in this war. But this Papanna's guerrilla attack make him trouble and he fed up the war. Papanna lost his friend in this war. This war took place of the 3 months with the Qasim Khan, Rustum Dil Khan with Papanna. The 3 months it goes this war and Rustum Dil Khan finally fled from the war and Papanna lost his friend who is close associate Sravana in this war. After the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, Deccan Subedar Kambaksh Khan started losing the control of his Deccan kingdom. Having seen this weak administration, Papanna attacked on the Kambaksh Khan. Papanna attacked Warangal on April 1708 children, and in this war this is a long battle at Tadikonda, later at Khilashapur. He escaped Tadikonda. This is a long battle that took place into the Tadikonda. Later at Khilashapur, Papanna escaped. Afterwards, he caught and beheaded in 1712 CE children. So this is the Sardar Sarvai Papanna, very brave person. Okay. The next is here Asafjai of Hyderabad. After Mughal in the Hyderabad, the ruling families came Asafjai of Hyderabad. So their ruling timeline of is 1724 to 1748 to 1911 to 1948. So their kings are from Asaf Jahis are Nizamul Mulk, first Nizam, Nasir Jang, Muzaffar Jang, Salabat Jang, Nizam Ali Khan, second Nizam, Sikandar Jaha, third Nizam, Nasirud-Dawla, fourth Nizam, Asaf-ud-Dawla, fifth Nizam, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan, sixth Nizam, and Mir Usman Ali Khan, seventh Nizam. So from the Asaf Ali, these are the seven Nizams, and Nasir Jang, Muzaffar Jang, Salabat Jang. These are the ruling kings are ruled in the from the Asaf Jahi after Mughal emperors. In the Hyderabad, Asaf Jahi family is ruled, children. So what is their ruling? We'll see. After the weakening of the Mughal Empire in 1720s, the Mughal governors asserted their independence. One of them was the Subedar of the Deccan, Chin Kulich Khan, also known as the Nizamul Mulk. Chin Kulich Khan, also known as the Nizamul Mulk. He was the founder of the Asaf Jahi dynasty. So Nizamul Mulk, he was a founder of the Asaf Jahi dynasty, children of the Hyderabad in the 1724. Nizamul Mulk ruled of 24 years. The Asaf Jahi rulers were 10 kings. Asaf Jahi rulers were 10 kings are their children who ruled from 1724 to 1948. Among them, 7 kings got the title Nizam. Among these 10 kings, 7 Asaf Jahi from the 10 kings, 7 kings got the title of Nizam. From the Mughals, they got this title. Nazar Jang, Muzaffar Jang and Sabat Jang were not received the title Nizam. The Nizams constantly fought the Marathas and the rulers of Mysore to carve the independent state of Hyderabad. Due to this reason, they became dependent on the British and lost their independent status. So, like this way, they lost their they depend on the British and they lost their independence in the British rule, children. These Nizams. So, Nizam kings are how many kings, children? Asaf Jahi family. 10 kings are ruling in their timeline. Among these 10 kings, 7 kings got the title of Nizam from the Mughal emperors, and the 3 kings are not got the title of Nizam, and their name is Nasir Jang, Muzaffar Jang and Salabat Jang not got the title of Nizam from the Mughal emperors in their ruling timeline. And afterwards, these Nizams depend on the British and they lost their independence. They undertook the colonial modernization under the influence of the British officials. The British loved the Hyderabad culture. During late 19th century, Hyderabad embarked on development. Salarjung was the Prime Minister of the Nizams. Between 1853 and 1883, who imbibed colonial development schemes. You will read more about him in the next lesson. The 6th Nizam, Mir Mahbub Ali Khan's period marked with a number of reforms. The Asafia Library, Victoria Memorial Orphanage, Mahbubia Girls School were established. During the Musi floods in 1908, he personally supervised the relief operations, offered prayers to the God and provided shelter to the victims. However, the 7th Nizam determined to protect the feudal power structure despite the popular movement for liberal administrative reformers. About these achievements, you will read more in class 8. So these are the Asaf Jahi family children. After Mughal dynasty lost, Asaf Jahi family came into the ruling power. Okay, so I hope you understood the lesson. Must go through the lesson reading, children, and try to understand the subject given into the lesson, children. Okay, na? So today we will stop here, children, and today your Sakshi is like this. We have to write Sakshi. Sakshi, how to write like this? Subject, social. Class, you have to write. 7th class. HW, you have to write. Learn and write all question and answers from chapter 14 in HW one time. Here take parent sign, and here teachers will give the sign, children. So here we completed chapter 14, children. So I am requesting you go through the lesson reading, understood the subject given into the chapter, and read your study material. Whatever the question and answers given, try to understand and then try to write in your own words that answers, children. Complete the given homework and send to the given school mail ID in a time, children. So we will meet with another chapter in the next session, children. Till then, bye bye.